What's up, guys? Justin Williams here, Dirt Time Adventures, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about bushcraft books or survival books and self-reliance books as well. And so I have a wide variety of books, everything from things that deal with homesteading, such as canning and gardening and all kinds of how to handle animals. Got books on trapping, got books on hunting and fishing, taxidermy, you name it, I got books on. I got books on prepping and knife making, blacksmithing, all kinds of books. But I want to talk specifically in this video about survival bushcraft type books. So here are some of my secondary books. These are books that like I said, they were probably not in my top 10, but they're good books nonetheless. And so everything from wild edibles to some great authors like Morris Kahansky and Horst Keffart. These are all great books. I didn't get as much out of them as I did some of the ones that are in my top 10. I also got some other books that I call novelty type books. These are the field and stream outdoor life type books, and they got tons of real basic down-to-earth information with some amazing graphics and some great illustrations in them, but they're just not, you know, my go-to book for survival, but they're good nonetheless. I think they're a little pricey, but you're paying for the print and all the illustrations that are in them. So without further ado, I want to get to you my top 10 books, and these are the ones that I value the most. I think they're the most critical, and if I had to spend money on books, these are the ones I would get. Okay, so the first one I'm going to go off with Paul Campbell's Survival Skills of Native California. But Justin, you don't live in California. I know I don't live in California, but this book is so rich. It is so it's just, the content is just out of this world. I had someone tell me that the original prints, the font and the printing wasn't very good, but the print is great in this one, and the illustrations are all hand drawn, but the content is just amazing, and the sucker's thick. I mean, it's almost as thick as all of them combined. But it's a great book. So that definitely is in my top 5, and I'm not going to break it down by top 5 and top 10. But just how they're stacked here. Nessmic, Woodcraft, and Camping. So I went from the fattest book to the thinnest book. And this book, I liked it so much because I didn't really learn anything. I won't say that I think I learned something from every book I read. But this was really one of the first books I read getting into bushcraft and survival. And it was just so enjoyable to read. I gained so much from it, and more or less a passion for the outdoors from it. Alright, so I got edible plants and eastern trees and all kinds of other plant books that I didn't even bring out. But this one right here on trees is Trees of Arkansas. And there are tons of trees in here that aren't in Arkansas. Maybe you don't live in Arkansas. But they break it down so well. They break it down from the leaf structure to the barks, and the uses and the characteristics and descriptions, and it is just an amazing tree book for $5 on your Arkansas Forestry Commission website. $5, one of my favorite tree books. All right, now I'm going to move on to my. No, I'm going to hold off. I'm going to move on to a couple other books. So we got 1, 2, and 3. Like I said, they're not in any order. This would be 4 and 5, and it's good old Dave Canterbury's Advanced Bushcraft and Bushcraft 101. Now, a lot of people, like I said, will say, oh, these books are generic, been written a million different times. Here's the difference. Dave Canterbury put the content in these books in one of the best formats that I've ever seen. It is comprehensible, it builds on itself, it's systematic, and it just flows. It's great. The content is, sometimes it is a little generic, that it's been said a million times before, but he puts it in a way that it's fresh and new, and it flows so amazingly. You just can't beat it. Alright, the next book, I'm going to combine this as one. because I wouldn't necessarily put both of them on my top list, but it is Tom Brown's Field Guides. Now, this wilderness survival one was pretty good, but I would probably stick it over here in my secondary list. But this Living with the Earth book was amazing. I loved it. And it talks about philosophy. It talks about what's called Earthcraft, Earth shelters, Earth mindset. And it was just a fabulous book. And so definitely adding that to my top list. And another one is Shelters, Shacks, and Shanties by D.C. Beard. And this book is fabulous for all the shelter constructions that you could think of. It's got good illustrations, and it breaks it down real well for you to understand. Another not necessarily learning book, but it really was such an enjoyable read, and it gave me a passion and love and adventure for the outdoors. And it's a fairly new book, but it's Matt Graham's Epic Survival. Not to mention, I got some serious beard envy from this guy. He's got like an amazing looking beard, but man, this was such an enjoyable read. It talks about getting set on your own path, and you know, dealing with life and adventures, and it was just a great book. All right, so that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Alright, so now I come to my top 2 books. Now, one of them is definitely number 1 on the list. The other one may not necessarily be number 2. It may fall down in there a little bit, but definitely the top number 1 book on my list. And I got to give a huge shout out to Rocky Hollow for hooking me up. And that is John McPherson's Naked into the Wilderness, Primitive Wilderness Living and Survival Skills books. And they are just fabulous. And so I want to also recognize Jerry McPherson as well as John. She probably doesn't get near the credit she deserves for her contribution to these books, but they are amazing. They're just top of the notch. And this Applied Advanced book, like I said, it's not as good as, to me, as the first one, Naked in the Wilderness 1, as Naked in the Wilderness 2, but it's still a fabulous, amazing book. So if I had to buy one book, it's all I could afford, I would pick this book right here, this Wilderness Living and Survival Skills, the first book by John McPherson. But if you are on a budget and cost is a factor, then you can always go with the newest edition, the newest print of this book, which is the Ultimate Guide to Wilderness Living. It's the same exact book, it's just the paper quality and the print quality is not as good as the original. But you're looking at $25 compared to $16. I also like the arrangement of this book. Same exact content, it's just in a little bit different order. And I like the arrangement of this book because I feel like it goes more in the order of survival. Whereas the other one starts off with brain tanning and buckskins, this one starts off with fire and cordage. And I think the order of it is much better in this book. Same content, both amazing, but for my money, if I had to buy a book, number 1 on my list is this one right here. Probably number 2 would be the Survival Skills of Native California, and then, like I said, probably tied for second with the Primitive Wilderness Skills Applied and Advanced. So that gives you a little bit of rundown of the books that I would encourage you to go out if you're wanting to buy a book. And here's why you buy books. Because books will last. If you have a kind of a prepper mindset and understand that technology is fragile, then you need to have yourself a library. Get you some books, at least a couple, 3 or 4 books that you can always reference. And if I had to, like I said, if I had to go out and I only had enough money to buy 2 books, maybe 3, then I would get definitely this one right here, and I would get one of the best wild edible books that I could find, and get that. And man, I'll post a picture of one of the ones I think is the best. I actually loaned it out to a buddy of mine right now, but it's the best wild edible book that I've come across. And I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on some of your favorite books as well. So definitely a little bit different video than what you're used to, but I got some guys asking what books to get out and get, and so these are the books I'd get. So here's my last thought on books. Do not let it replace adequate training. And don't just think you can read something and be good. You have to get out there and practice the skills you learn. I also encourage you, don't let it replace adequate schooling. And so there's all kinds of fabulous schools out there. I've been involved with 3 different survival schools, actually 4 now, that I'm going to be working with Woodcraft and Jeremy Gwynn. And if you guys haven't checked him out, be sure to do so. So 4 different survival schools that I've worked with, and you just can't beat it. You can't replace adequate training and qualified instruction. And so get some books, but get some training, some dirt time, and some qualified instruction, guys. And always, thanks for putting up with the stupid highway moving, and going to be training at a new location. And so hopefully you don't have to tolerate that much more. So once again, keep it, guys, practical, primitive, and prepared.